Admiration for someone can be expressed in various ways, from appreciating their character to marveling at their achievements. Even if those achievements is murder,
You are now listening to The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast hosted by Kay on Spotify. A podcast aimed to uncover and share the stories behind heinous and insane acts that have been overlooked or overshadowed by mainstream media, getting justice for the voices that can't speak.
what's up, y'all? It's your girl Kay, and I am the host of The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast. A podcast designed to focus on crimes committed in the Black community that you don't hear about in mainstream media, giving a voice to those victims that have otherwise been silenced. Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast with me, Kay, the Texas girl in a Georgia world, baby. Ladies, how y'all feel? Fellas, y'all all right? It's Sunday, July 13th, 2025, and your girl is on what I like to call an elevation journey right now. Actually, I like to call this chapter in my life Revelation and Elevation because I've realized a lot and come to the conclusion that some things I have to just let go and let God. And baby, when God speaks, I definitely listen. Everything is going great in certain aspects of my life. I'm on my glow up, about to get that good old PhD behind my name, about to be doctor. Yes. I also came up with a new storyline for a new book I'm working on. It's a horror story. It's called Love at Lake Lanier. And those of y'all that know about Lake Lanier, yeah, y'all know the deal. Listen, I don't understand why so many people continue to die out there. Like, will y'all please leave the ancestors alone? They said don't fuck with us and we won't fuck with you. But yet and still, every time I turn on the news, I'm seeing somebody that died out there. I done saw boats is blowing up now. Like, leave the ancestors alone, okay? Anywho, oh, shout out to my parents for celebrating their anniversary yesterday. Happy anniversary again, mom and dad. I love you guys so much. But anywho, I'm loving and living more. And, I encourage you all to do the same. I also encourage you all to answer this next question. Y'all know what that question is, right? What y'all sipping on? Now, tonight, I'm actually sipping on some double XL champagne. Listen, I didn't even know that they made champagne, but I do now. And I figured that it was time that I celebrated me and my accomplishments. Despite certain things that's been going on lately, I have done so much in my life that I am so proud of that need to be celebrated. Let me tell y'all something, okay? Don't ever dim your light. Don't ever dim your shine. You shine bright like you are supposed to and fucking celebrate you. Okay. You put that work in, so now it's time for you to kick back, relax, and get your sip on. Oh, y'all, I think I may have a signature drink in mind for the October show. My bartender is a beast with it. Oh, I can't wait. And the tickets go on sale in just a few days. Are y'all ready? I know I am. Someone in the Facebook group suggested that I do like my own liquor. And I'm not going to lie, that kind of got my wheels turning a little bit because y'all know I'm always trying to do something else to add to the portfolio. You know what I'm saying? So it might be a possible goal for 2026. Who knows? In the meantime, in between time, I'm going to pop the cork on this champagne, y'all. So now that we got our drinky drink, I got my snacks. Tonight's snack is popcorn, of course. Popcorn and champagne. It just goes together for me. I'm kind of like Olivia Pope. I can do popcorn and wine all day, all night, don't care. It go together for me like Diddy and baby oil. I'm sorry, my bad. I'm gonna do better, y'all. I mean, well, okay, maybe I'll do better. Anywho, y'all, let's get into it. Now, this case was suggested by a coworker of mine, Renee. Child, y'all got to thank her because she gave me about 18 weeks worth of episodes on our last shift. Child, she took me down a rabbit hole, and I'm like a kid at Christmas right now. So y'all make sure that y'all say thank you to Renee because she gave me some cases that had me gagging. Okay. So y'all hop on in and buckle up, baby, because we about to ride back to 2013 in Cleveland, Ohio. But Cleveland got me concerned because good Lord, it's some killers. Like Cleveland, y'all all right, babies? Child, some of these cases out of there have me scared to walk outside. But I mean, hey, it is what it is. Y'all ready to get into it? Y'all know what time it is. Let's get it. This week's case involves Shatisha Shealy, victim, Angela Deskins, victim, Sherelda Terry, victim, Diane Madison, victim, and the infamous murder of the week, Michael Madison, and Jalen Plummer. Michael Madison was born October 15th, 1977, to Diane Madison and John Baldwin in East Cleveland, Ohio. So pretty much Michael was an oops baby. See, John met Diane and Diane was a bust down for him. Like he was around Diane for a good time, not a long time. You know what I'm saying? She literally was just a one night stand for him. Like he met her, he came in, knocked them walls down, and that was that. So when she came to him telling him, John, guess what? I'm pregnant. We're gonna be a family. He was looking at her like, who is we? I don't want that little bastard. You was just a fuck. And John was on his Jerome from Martin. He was like, I say, watch me. Ew. He wanted absolutely nothing to do with that baby. So, poor Diane had to give birth and raise Michael alone. Now, she did give birth to another son a little bit later. Michael had a little brother and they were very close, which was good because, well, Diane was very abusive to Michael. Like, I don't know if she felt some type of way because she gave up that little hot pocket so quick with her little Caesar's ass or what. But, she damn sure took it out on Michael. Not to mention that she was one of those that had a bunch of different uncles around her kids. Yeah. Ain't no way, baby. Women, y'all got to do better. Your babies be seeing that shit. Think about the impression that you leaving on your kids. You can be a hoe. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Just be a low key hoe. Okay. But when Michael was an infant and a toddler, Diane started dating this guy named William Miller. Now, they dated from like March of 1978 until around 1982. And while they were dating, Diane got pregnant with Michael's younger brother, William Miller Jr. But everybody called him Junior. They called him JR, actually. And there was a lot of abuse from the both of them. The Department of Children and Family Services for Cuyahoga County documented numerous reported instances of abuse and neglect. I bet they did, because Cuyahoga County CPS, yeah, they automatically get the side eye from me ever since that Anaya Day story. I don't fuck with them, but I digress. So during the years of 1981 to 1983 was when a lot of the abuse occurred. And it went all the way up until 1989. See, when Michael was 3 years old, Diane put him in a hot bath. And when he started screaming that it was too hot, she hit him with an extension cord. And sometimes when he wasn't too hungry, she would like shove food down his throat. She would pick him up by the hair, hit him in his head with her fist, give him a black eye, all kind of crazy shit. And then William, he didn't help because he would yell at Michael to pick up his toys. And if Michael didn't do it right away, he would push him into objects, pushing him into the wall or pushing him into the bookshelf, whatever. On one particular occasion in January of 1981, William beat Michael to the point that he vomited and passed out. Mind you, okay, this occurred in 81. Michael was born in 77, so he was only like 4 when this happened. He beat him to the point that he vomited and passed out, and an ambulance had to take him to the emergency room at Mount Sinai Hospital. And there, the doctors found marks and abrasions and contusions on Michael's body. Y'all, his penis had even been swollen. He literally lost his hearing for a while. He was beat so hard. Like it was crazy because shit, he almost lost his life. So they ended up removing him from his mother and his mother's boyfriend's care, and he and JR went to go live with his grandma. But like a year later, Cuyahoga County CPS, they let him go back to live with Diane. And after that, Diane broke it off with William. And, I guess she was just like, oh, well, yeah, you're a bad influence, so I'm going to raise him. I guess. She was raising her 2 boys, but then she continued to be with men that were just as abusive. Y'all, she actually dated somebody named Cowboy Dave. What the fuck? That's just funny to me because what? But, she dated Cowboy Dave, Billy Brown, Timothy Callahan, and a few others. One guy only had one name, Robert. Mm, mm-mm. I want to see. Nope, nope, nope. Imma do good. Imma do good. Seems like you're ready. Imma quit. I'm sorry. Okay. So, the last documented record of the abuse was in 1989, but as they got older, the punishments just continued. She would have them doing squats and push-ups and holding encyclopedias out for their bodies for extended periods of time. Her boyfriend at one point, Billy Brown, he had Michael sit in a squat position for like hours at a time. And if he moved or if he got up, he would add more time to it. Like, I've done that before, but never for like long periods of time. I've done that to my kids where I've made them, get in squat position and hold two cans out. But it'd be like for 5 or 10 minutes just to, teach them a lesson or toughen them up because they popping off at the mouth. And I'm like, all right, you too big for me to whoop. But guess what? I'm old school with it. Imma sock you dead in your chest. You c run up on me. Run up, get done up. You know what I'm saying? But I ain't had that problem because my kids know better. They know that I'm crazy. But it got so bad that over the course of several years, Michael and his brother Junior had been with like 15 different adults. Like he had moved over 21 times by the time he was 18 years old. That's insane. How the fuck do you even move that much? Like, he didn't graduate high school because when he was, like, 15, he went to go live with his uncle Leonard, which was Diane's brother, because apparently he had touched a girl's breast in school and got kicked out, and ultimately he ended up getting arrested for it. His first arrest when he was 18 years old. He got sentenced to prison for sexually assaulting this girl, and he got sentenced for drug trafficking. And then in 1993, he gets released and he goes to live with his uncle, which wasn't much better. Like his relatives either had an issue with drugs or keeping their hands to themselves. Like these kids were glutton for punishment. It was almost as if the family forgot that they took the kids in, the way that they were acting, exposing them to sex way too early, like you nasties. And they wonder why folks turn into sexual predators. Anyway, even though Michael dealt with all of that, he decided instead of trying to do better, he would go another route. He was going to become a drug dealer. He was out on them corners slanging that booger sugar, that cocaina, or as my coworker Renee would say, that ice cream. Yo, shout out to Renee. But homie wasn't too good at it because shortly after he started slanging, he got caught and he had quite a few charges. One in 2000 and then another in 2001. But that wasn't all he was into. Michael had a very high sexual appetite and was constantly wanting it fed. He was always trying to get at the young girls. And in October of 2001, he managed to lure a young 18-year-old girl out of her comfort zone, telling her that he wanted to take her back to his crib. And at first, she was with it, but she changed her mind and she was like, "Hey, we need to slow down a little bit." But Michael wasn't trying to hear that. And before baby girl could react, Michael had yoked her up and was dragging her by her hair behind this old house on Marlowe's Avenue near Euclid Avenue, ready to just take what he wanted. And you know what? Euclid Avenue has popped up in several cases that I've done in Cleveland. Like, yikes on bikes. Bless this baby's heart because that just seems like if I hear Euclid, I know I ain't going nowhere near it. Okay. But she's screaming and hollering the entire way. She ain't going down without a fight. And it worked because there was a cop in the area that heard her screaming and he pulled up on Michael. Like Michael saw this cop and he bolted, leaving the girl there. And of course, the cop chases after him, but his main concern was making sure that the girl was okay. Good job, because apparently Cleveland got some suck ass cops. So good job for that one. But, also on top of that, she was able to, easily identify him. So Michael was arrested later that night. Like he knew that he was caught. So he pled guilty to attempted rape, where he received a 4-year sentence. So he goes to prison in 2001 and he does his time. And when he is released, it comes with stipulations, of course. He has to register as a sex offender. His probation officer and the sheriff's department got to know where his ass is at all times. On top of that, he had to take a therapy treatment program that I'm assuming was supposed to like desexualize him. It didn't, but it was supposed to. So he gets out and he tells the probation officer and the sheriff's department that he's going to be living with his mother, Diane, in Cleveland. But he never actually lived with her. Him and Diane kind of had a strange relationship. Like Michael had grown to hate women at this point, especially those that were like his mother. But he still, talked with his mother sometimes hours on end. He just didn't live with her like they thought. Instead, Michael lived in East Cleveland, nowhere near his mama. Like he told people that he was living with her, but he was like, yeah, no. And he had his little rinky dink apartment that was, damn near run through. So time goes on, and Michael is continuing to evade police as far as them knowing where he was really located. And he was doing his thing for about 10 years or so on the low. So God only knows what he did in that time frame. But about a decade goes by, and in 2012, Michael meets a woman by the name of Brittany Darby. And, he's really taken by her. And so they start seeing each other. And so the two of them, they're together. And it's the summer of 2012. And he's telling her, baby, I love you. I really want us to work. Meanwhile, he meets Tania Plummer, who he's fucking with, and gets her pregnant, but swearing that he loves Brittany. And Brittany, she's seeing certain things. She's seeing how he is when it comes to women and how, he's telling her that he doesn't necessarily care for women like that and how he hates women at times. And she's like, okay, so how can you be with me and at the same time say that you hate women? Like, that's a valid question. Like, how can we possibly be together when you have such strong hate for women? But he's persistent with her, baby, I love you. It's not like that. Let's just be together. And despite having a baby on the way with Tania, he convinced her to move into his apartment with him. He lived in a second floor apartment above this cable TV company, and they had just started dating in the summer of 2012. But by October, like a couple of months later, they moved in together. Now, it wasn't until after they had been together that Brittany started to kind of notice the change in him because she wasn't the only one. On top of that, he had met another woman by the name of Shantae Mahoney, and he starts kicking it with her too. Phew. For somebody that hates bitches so much, he sure do got a lot of them. Mm. But in his mind, he figured he could date them both, and I guess that's exactly what the fuck he did. Michael literally maintained relationships with both of them. Like, Brittany lived with him, but he had Shantae at the house too, sometimes when Brittany was there. And then in this time, he and Tania had a whole nother kid. So now he's got two small babies, a son and a daughter, plus two bitches that he's juggling. Like, this nigga is a full grown circus act and other shit that he was doing. But that wasn't enough for Michael because despite him being able to juggle two women, his sexual appetite and his disdain for women in general was much stronger. It got to the point that Brittany was hearing him talk about how he wanted to kill his baby mama and how he couldn't be around his kids for fear of what he may do. And in the midst of all of this, he started to go on the prowl. And not even a year later, Cuyahoga County went through yet another scare. Now, remember, this is the county that had serial killers like Anthony Sowell and Ariel Castro, who you'll hear mentioned quite a few times in this episode. Because now someone that admired Anthony Sowell decided to wreak havoc, and it started with Shatisha Shealy. Shatisha Shealy was born November 26th, 1984 to Cometa Shealy in Cleveland, Ohio. Now, she was born 2 months premature, but her mother said that she was a fighter, which, I mean, you got to be being born 2 months premature. Like, she was a tiny little thing. Shoot, I had my twins 3 weeks early, and they were some tiny babies, so I can only imagine at 2 months. But she wasn't alone because she had a younger brother by the name of Dontel and a sister by the name of Samara. And even though she lived in a low income area, she grew up really loved and cared for. Her family described her as funny and sweet. She loved her sister and brother. She loved her mother. She was, by all accounts, a good girl. Like everybody talked about, her favorite thing, which was tattoos. That girl had a lot of tattoos. Like she even got Lil Wayne's name tattooed on her chest, which I guess shows that she was his ultimate fan. Who knows? But she was definitely a girl about her tattoos, and I'm not mad at that because y'all know I got several of them too. Like, I got a lot of Egyptian artwork pretty much tattooed all over my body, and that was her thing. She also had a daughter by the name of Angel that she loved and cared for dearly, but she wasn't in the best position to care for her, so Angel was actually living with her father. For the most part, Shatisha was very low key. She really only had one situation where she had gotten into trouble, and that was in June of 2012, specifically June 30th, 2012. See, she had gotten arrested for firing a weapon out of a vehicle, allegedly. So she gets arrested and she ends up going to jail, and they give her a bond of $1,000. But unfortunately, it was a little too steep for her, and her family couldn't really afford to pay the money to get her out. So she had to stay in jail the entire time until her trial. I know somebody that's locked up right now that swear he got it. And his bail is $1,000, but he's still sitting in there. I'm sorry, that was mean. But anyway, she was in there, for a good little minute, like 3 months. But once her trial date actually came to on September 24th, 2012, they ended up dismissing her case because there weren't any witnesses to really back up what was being said. And right after her release, she decides to go out and, get something to drink. And she goes to this spot in East Cleveland called the Honeydew Bar. And while she was there, she meets Michael. He sees her and, she a nice little chocolate girl. So he approaches her and he kicks his game. And he introduces himself as Ivan and starts buying her drinks and everything. And he tells her, hey, you know what? Why don't you come back to my place? I'm trying to spend some time with you. And at first, she's hesitant. She's like, I'm going to just stay here and hang out. But he ends up convincing her to go to his house with him, and after several drinks, they leave the bar and they go to Michael's apartment. Now, I don't know if her intuition kicked in, but shortly after she got to that apartment, she was like, you know what? Something is telling me I need to go. So she tells him, hey, listen, I had a great time, but I think I'm going to just go ahead and go. But Michael had other plans. He grabs an object and hits her in the face hard, knocking her unconscious. Now, supposedly he choked her out, but what he did actually do was strip her naked, rape her, and then he placed her in a garbage bag. Like, he bent her body to where she was kind of in the fetal position almost, because that's the only way that he could get her in the trash bag. He bends her at the waist, then he puts her in this plastic trash bag, then puts more trash bags in there, and she was never seen again, not until months later. He had her hidden in his apartment for months, just rotting. And the really sad part is her family had no clue where she was. They're hitting her up and calling her cell phone and she's not answering. And her mom, Kim, she's like, okay, what's going on with my daughter? Now, she went missing in September of 2012, right after she got out of jail. And sadly, in December of 2012, shit got a whole lot worse. Looking for a book that resonates with your soul? Well, look no further than Author K, a master ghostwriter, storyteller, and author who weaves tales across multiple genres, from heartwarming romance to gripping urban horror. Whether you're searching for a contemporary romance that sweeps you off your feet or street lit that reflects the realities of life, Kay's writing speaks to the heart of every reader. Her work also passionately highlights the Black Lives Matter movement, bridging narratives that matter. Dive into the journey of discovery, empowerment, romance, and connection through Kay's incredible reads. Visit www.mizk.com today and dive into a world of unforgettable tales. That's www.mzkaye.com. Your next favorite book is just a click away. See, December 22nd, 2012, her brother Dontel was shot in a home invasion. Now he got shot in the neck, the head, and the chest, and he instantly died right there on the scene. And their mom was devastated. Like, she's calling her family, letting them know what's going on. And of course, everybody's reaching out to Shatisha, but they're not getting an answer. So when they had Dontel's funeral and she didn't show up, that's when Kim was like, okay, something's going on. Like, where the hell is my daughter? For whatever reason, though, they never filed a missing persons report on her. But Kim is worried because she needs to know where her daughter is. And the only person that knows that answer is Michael because he's got her stuffed in trash bags and she's in his closet. Now, one of his little girlfriends that came over to spend the night, Shantae, she started to notice the smell. And she's asking him, like, yo, what the fuck is that smell? And he was just like, oh, it's just a dead raccoon that's in the wall. That's all. He just brushed it off like it was nothing because to him, Shatisha meant nothing. Even though her family and friends were frantic, not knowing what happened to her, she literally meant nothing to him. He was already thinking about his next victim, Angela Deskins. Angela Deskins was born July 3rd, 1975, to Robert and Linda Deskins. She came from a rather large family. Like she had three brothers, Bobby, Jason, and Jermaine. And she also had three sisters, Sabrina, Christina, and Katana. Now, Angela was a very pretty girl. When I was looking at the pictures, she kind of reminded me of like that high school cheerleader type, natural beauty, don't need makeup, none of that. She attended Euclid High School, and after graduating, she went to Cuyahoga County Community College. She was like a lot of other girls, she into music. Oh, she loved Usher, baby. I love him too. That man just gets better with time. Whew. She liked artists like MC Light, but she also kind of had, a different side to her. She was very eclectic. She loved country music too. Like she got down with Reba McEntire, which I ain't mad at. Okay. Reba is the shit. I can binge watch her show so many times. Don't act like y'all don't watch Reba, okay? I can hear that line now. I'm a survivor. Listen, I love me some Reba. But that was Angela. She liked everything. She loved basketball and she would go to the games even if she had to sit by herself. And she was, kind of a lot like Shatisha where she was a little bit of a loner. Like she didn't have any kids or anything, but she got into a little bit of trouble too. January 18th, 2012, she got arrested because she was in this car and the car had gotten pulled over for a traffic citation. Now, it says that she didn't drive, so I'm assuming she was in the car with someone else. But they got pulled over for a traffic citation, and when the cops got to the car, they saw that there was some weed in there. So they arrested her, and she got out of jail and everything. She was able to bond out. Now, she was supposed to go to court, but she never did. So, when she didn't show up for her court date, they ended up getting a warrant for her arrest. Now, in the state of Ohio, they don't necessarily pick you up for something like that because it's a misdemeanor. But what they'll do is they'll put a block on your license. So, if you try to renew your driver's license or something like that, you can't until the matter gets resolved. So she had a warrant, but at the same time, they weren't like actively looking for her. It was like, okay, if she would have got pulled over again or something and they ran her license, they would have seen that she had a warrant and she would have been taken to jail. But it's not like they were saying, hey, we're going to go looking for Angela for, this little misdemeanor. So at one point, Angela kind of fell on hard times and ended up moving in with one of her brothers to kind of save money and, get herself together. And her brother talked about how, if he didn't go physically talk to her, he wouldn't even know that she was there. Like, she would go play cards with their next door neighbor, this guy by the name of John Locke. But outside of that, she stayed to herself. So it was shocking when she came up missing. The last day that her family saw her was June 7th, 2013. So she was in the 3300 block of East 87th Street in Cleveland, Ohio. And at first, they didn't think much of it because, she's used to being by herself. But after a while of not hearing from her, they started to get worried because she would always let somebody know where she was. And the reason why they couldn't hear from her was because she crossed paths with Michael. See, Michael had already met her like a year prior through a mutual friend named Nathania Crosby. I bet that her daddy's name was Nathan because Nathania. Hey. Anyway, Nathania knew Michael by the name Ivan as well. So he would come around her kids and, her cousin. And Nathania was like, she knew her instinct was like, something up with this nigga. So, she was like, yeah, no, he too old for them. And she flat out told him, you need to stay the fuck away from my daughter. She too young for you. And, respectfully, he did because his eyes were on Angela. So Angela and Nathania were cool, and Angela tells her, hey, me and Ivan, we about to get up, go get something to eat. You think you can give me a ride? And Nathaniel, she didn't have a problem with it. So she gets in her car and she takes her to East Cleveland to this barbecue spot. But it turns out that it was abandoned. But Michael was there waiting for her. And Nathania, she's thinking, okay, well, she good. So she drops Angela off, and that was that. But Michael wasn't thinking about no damn barbecue food. He was trying to fuck. So they go back to his crib. And when Angela told him no, he rapes her, he attacks her, he chokes her with a belt, and then he binds her body. Like he bends her at the waist and he ties her head to her legs. Like that's some sick ass shit. And he wasn't done yet. He had one more victim, y'all. But while he was scoping out his next victim, he had Angela stashed in his house just like he had Shatisha. And Brittany is now noticing his behavior and questioning him. She's now seeing that he's got bruises popping up. She's seeing scars and she's like, okay, what the fuck is going on? And she's questioning him on this. He knows he can't keep it up. So he decides to get slick and go rent a garage. Now, the garage wasn't just his. He shared it with his neighbor, which is very uncommon to me. Like, I didn't know people could share a garage in an apartment complex. Like, I know in the past when I've lived in an apartment complex and had to rent a garage, like, it was just mine. Like, I didn't share it with nobody else, especially if I was paying on it. But he was very, dismissive to Brittany and Shantae when they were questioning him. He had this garage now, so he knew he couldn't keep the body in his house too long because his girlfriends were getting suspicious. So while he's, entertaining Brittany and Shantae, he's also hunting for somebody new. And that's when he comes across Sherelda Terry. Sherelda Helen Terry was born October 20th, 1994, to Van Edwin Terry and Reverend Belinda Minor in East Cleveland, Ohio. Her parents nicknamed her Ladybug, which is so cute because she wasn't no bigger than a ladybug with her little itty bitty self. She was a little different than the other two women because, for one, she was younger. But on top of that, she really, didn't have an opportunity to get into any trouble. And, she kind of, her life was on a different path. She wasn't really around a lot of kids like that. Like she had been homeschooled since the 4th grade. She was really good at reading and, had gotten some awards for it too. She was very involved in the church because her mom was a reverend and y'all know how it is with them preacher kids. So she started a praise dance ministry where she attended church at Antioch Christian Fellowship. And by all accounts, she was a good girl. Like she was really young when she disappeared. And that was because she had met Michael as well, AKA Ivan. See, at the beginning of July 2013, Sherelda got a summer job working at an elementary school where she was going to be a tutor. So it's early July and she comes across Michael and he introduces himself to her. And, he's feeling her and trying to holla. And she was like, okay, cool. We can exchange contact information. So they exchange phone numbers and the two of them start texting and he's telling her so many damn lies. Like this nigga lie more than Stevie J cheating on Mimi. Michael's telling Sherelda that he's 25 years old, that he don't have kids, and he's single and all of that. And she's like, okay, cool, I can work with that. Now in reality, this nigga is old as dirt. Cause he's really 35 with 2 kids and 2 girlfriends. But he's texting her and everything. And he keeps trying to get her to come over to his crib. But she's adamant about it. She was like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, I don't know you like that. Y'all got to remember, she's young. She's 18. She's still immature in a lot of ways, but she's also raised right. She was like, no, I'm not just going to go to the house of a stranger. I don't know you like that. No. And so they're texting back and forth with each other, and he's just pushing her. Just come through. It ain't like we're going to be doing nothing. But she's standing strong. But July 10th, 2013, Sherelda's getting ready to go to work, and it's raining outside. And so Michael sees her and he pulls up because he lives in the area and he's like, hey, it's raining. I'm going to go ahead and give you a ride. And so she gets in and they start riding and she finds out that she doesn't have to work that day. And he tells her, well, why don't you just come back to the crib with me? And finally she's like, okay, I guess. So they go back to his house. And as soon as they get there, he's all over her. Girl, I've been feeling you. I want you. I know you want me. And she's like, listen, you need to stop because it's not that kind of party. And, Michael, he don't like hearing that. So he rapes her and he chokes her out, killing her with the belt. and he does the same exact thing to her that he did to Angela and Shatisha. He bends her body at the waist, ties her head to her legs, and tucks her into a plastic trash bag, several trash bags. Now, he doesn't put her body in the closet. He takes it to the garage that he shares with his neighbor and stuffs her between his car and the wall. Now, y'all got to remember that this is July. It's the summertime, which means it's hot as fuck. And you got this girl's body stuffed in between your car and the wall in a tight ass garage. Yeah, it didn't take long before a smell formed. So, about 9 days later, on July 19th, 2013, the Cuyahoga County Police they get a phone call from this guy named Sean Childs. And they're asking him, okay, what's going on? And he tells them, listen, I don't know what's going on, but there's a foul ass smell that's coming from this garage. Like it's really funky. Y'all need to go check it out. It's been going on for about a week. At first, I thought it was, here in the office, but I just looked and it's a bunch of flies, like hundreds of them hovering over this garage. I don't know what's going on, but we can't even park the company vehicle in there. It's that bad. So the cops, they head over to the garage. They find out who it belongs to. They find out it belongs to Michael. So they call him to see if he'll come open the garage, but he says no. Then they call his neighbor, Kim Henderson, because she's the other person that is in the garage as well, but she's not home because she's on vacation. So they get the fire department to come out and they pop the garage open. And there they find this trash bag that's wedged against the wall and wedged against a 1984 Oldsmobile Cutlass. Yo, I just asked this the other day on Facebook, ironically. Like, are Oldsmobiles still manufactured? Because I ain't seen one in forever. Like, is that still like a car that people have? Okay, my bad, y'all. Sorry, squirrel moment. So when they go to retrieve it and they open it, there's like several bags put in this one bag, and they see this liquid is coming out as they start to open it. So they're like, okay, this has to be some type of hazardous material. This ain't just a normal smell. But the more that they start looking, they realize that it's blood and plasma. So they call for backup, and backup arrives, and they keep looking in the bag, and they see Sharilda's body. And the cops are just shocked. They like, "Yo, what the fuck did we just walk up on?" So they immediately radio in for backup. They're like, "Hey, we got a body. Y'all got to get here now." And the first thing that they're thinking is, "Okay, we need to find Michael ASAP." Now, this is where I start to think,
No, you done fucked up, right? No, 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 no. You know you done fucked up, right?
why the fuck would you hide the body in a garage that you share with somebody else? Like, that's just stupid. It's hot, it's funky, it's just not smart at all. They end up getting a search warrant, and then they go to Michael's apartment at 1397 Hayden Street, apartment 2, where they found evidence of decomposition. Now, remember, I told y'all when he killed Shatisha and Angela, they were originally inside the house. Like, he kept their bodies in the house for a while, just like, Sharilda. So they're assuming that it's Sharilda's decomposition because that's the body that they found. They don't know about the other two bodies yet. But they get the search warrant and they go through his apartment and they find all of this decomposition evidence. And a press conference is had almost immediately. And they're telling the community, hey, we found a body here. We have a feeling that there may be others. And they're finding all this DNA at his apartment and they know it's not his. So volunteers, they hear the news and they get together and they decide, you know what? We going to help the police out. We going to go to his neighborhood and we going to go house to house to see if there's anything else out there that police need to know about. Especially after this whole Anthony Sowell thing, baby, the community is on it. Okay. So a bunch of people get together, and I want to say it was like maybe around 100 people that all got together, and they were just going door to door. Like there were a lot of abandoned houses in the area, and they knocked on every last door. One of the volunteers even went as far as going into a crawl space underneath a vacant house to see what he could find. And the police had their cadaver dogs and everything. But the funny thing is, people started coming forward. Like they were talking about their interactions with Michael. And a lot of people that knew him, they knew he was trouble. Other females were saying that, they had been to his house but had gotten away and just for whatever reason they never said anything. And it's really sad because it's like, damn, had some of these girls spoken up, maybe things could have been different. and there could have been a different outcome. But then again, look at Anthony Sowell. Women went to the police and said that they were assaulted by him and that they were raped, but nothing happened. So for Michael to emulate Anthony, and this is somebody that he admires, maybe the police just didn't give a damn about women of color in this area. Like it's clearly becoming more apparent. Now, while the police are combing the area and everything, Michael is hiding. Okay, so here's the thing. He had actually driven past the crime scene after the police had initially called him. Yes, he drove right past their asses in a silver Ford SUV. I bet it was his mama's. I bet you. But he drove right past them, seeing them doing their shit, and he went straight to his mama Diane's house on Chickasaw Avenue to hide out because he knew the cops was coming for him. And eventually the cops realize where his mother stays in Cleveland, and they go over there to her house, and sure enough, they see that he's there looking at them out the window. Now, he kind of does a little bit of a standoff and just decides, I ain't coming out, fuck y'all. But after a while, he knew that he was screwed. Like they were talking to this man through the window. Hey, you want to go ahead and come out? And he's like, nah, I'm cool. But Diane, oh, she wasn't having it. She was like, Michael, stop playing with these white men. You need to just go ahead and surrender to the police. So after 13 more officers arrived and a whole SWAT team pulls up, finally Michael says, all right, I give up. He gets arrested and he's taken to jail. Y'all, when this nigga gets booked, he tells the two cops that's in the room with him, bro, we about to be famous. The fuck? The next day, while he was in jail, the cops find the other two bodies. So remember, he killed Shatisha first. So when the cops were out doing their investigation and everything and, combing the area, they go into a field that's near the apartment complex. It was about maybe like 300 feet away, and the cadaver dogs, they are going off. They discover a trash bag and they open it and they see a badly decomposed body on the inside of it. They can tell it's a woman and they see that her body has been bent at the waist, her head has been bound to her legs, and she had tattoos all over her body. So immediately they put her information out in the media. They're telling the citizens, hey, we found another victim that we believe Michael Madison killed. We need to figure out who she is. If you can identify this woman, please contact us. So they get all of this out there, and her sister Samara ends up identifying her because of the tattoos that she had. Y'all remember I told you she had Lil Wayne tattooed on her chest. So Samara realizes that it's her sister, and she's just distraught. Like she tells her mama, and Kim is devastated. Like this is now her second child that she's lost. And technically, Shatisha died first, but for whatever reason, Michael held on to her body for months at a time before he got rid of her. Now the cops are feeling good that they found her, but then lo and behold, literally hours later, they find another body. And this time it's the body of Angela Deskins. She was found in the basement of an abandoned house about 15 yards from the garage that Michael had rented. So they pull out the trash bag and they see that her body has been bent at the waist. And like the others, her head had been bound to her legs. Now, the medical examiner was able to tell that she had been killed by strangulation with a belt. But Shatisha's body was so badly decomposed, they weren't able to tell how she died. Like they knew that she had some type of blunt force trauma to the head and to the face, but they don't know if that's what caused her death or not. To this day, honestly, it's still a mystery. So now they've got three bodies. They've got 28-year-old Shatisha Shealy, 38-year-old Angela Deskins, and 18-year-old Sherelle Terry. And they're looking at Michael for answers. There's about 6 or 7 detectives on him asking him questions like, "Well, what the hell were you doing? What made you do this?" And Michael is playing dumb. "I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know who was in my house. A lot of people got access to me. I'm the local weed man, baby." And the cops, they're trying to, get him to fess up. They're like, "Look, Michael, come on, man. We know what went down. Don't make yourself look to be like a cold-blooded killer. Like, show some type of remorse." Oh, but Michael was cool. "Look, I'm not expecting to beat this. This is ugly. Trust me, this is ugly. I'm numb right now. But you know what? Just let science tell the story because I've got respect for science. I've never killed nobody." Yeah, that's what he said. Mhm. And so they keep grilling him, and after a while, it's close to like 7 p.m. that night on July 20th, after all the bodies have been discovered. And he's telling them, well, there could be more bodies. Like basically, he's toying with them. And they're asking him, are there 10 bodies? And he sarcastically tells them, all right, now that's a bit extreme. It's maybe three, no more than five. Like, bruh, how the fuck do you not know? And he then says, "Only time will tell if there's 3. I'm pretty sure there's more." And so they're like, "Well, why would you do this?" And he takes this big dramatic sigh and he's like, "Listen, the past year shit has been crazy with me. I've had heavy drinking problems and drugs, so sometimes I can't remember what the fuck I did. I'm not a monster. If I'm sober, I'm good. But if I start drinking and I'm doing drugs, I turn into Jekyll and Hyde. But you gotta understand, it's hard for me to deal with these women. Like, I get so angry when it comes to these females. My baby mama, my mother. But I tried to stay away from, these bitches, but the reason why I'm getting fucked up." Which sounds like a bunch of bullshit to me, but they listening to him and they're pressing him and they're asking him to talk about what he remembers. And they're telling him, like, "Michael, we found this girl's purse in your apartment. It belongs to Angela." And he sits back and he's chill about it. I mean, he was like, I mean, I put her in the garage. Like, I ain't know what I was gonna do with her. I don't even remember the girl. I just remember putting her in the garage. But I mean, shit, what else you need? What more you want? That's enough to lock me up, right? One body is enough. I just dragged her down to the garage and I just remember she was heavy as fuck. That's why I didn't answer y'all when y'all called. But I ain't kill her. I just took her to the garage. I ain't killed nobody. 9 times out of 10, if I'm with a female, it's not to kill them. I don't like, view humans like I view roaches and flies. This nigga. Mm. So they're like, "All right, Michael, so if we do an autopsy, are we going to find your semen on her or in her?" And he shrugs and he's like, "I don't know. I can't remember. I don't know that girl." And so they ask him again, if there's any more bodies. And he literally says, "God, I hope not, because it's going to make me crumble under the weight of everything." So then they take a picture of Angela and they show it to him. And he looks at it and he says, "I mean, I may have seen her at my apartment, but I mean, I ain't let her stay. She probably came to get some weed or something." And at this point, they're fed up with him. They straight up ask him, "What did you do with her body?" Mind you, they already know the answer because they've discovered the bodies. But he tells them, "I don't remember moving any other bodies." And the weird thing was, he kept switching his focus like back to his mama. Like, it was just so fucking random. He was like, "I need to talk to my mom. I need to talk to her." And the cops are like, Yeah, that's not gonna happen right now. You're not a minor." And then he changes it up again. And he was like, "You know what? It's probably better because she don't give a fuck about me no way. All she care about is that broken door and her damn dog. It's always been about material shit. What's hers and what's not. That door and that dog come before me. She don't even want to talk to me. It's definitely about that door and that dog. She already just pretty much persecuted me." The door? The fuck? Who? Okay. Anyway. Psst. Hey, Raleigh, North Carolina. Are you in the market for a new vehicle? Look no further than Southern State Hyundai of Raleigh. Located at 2511 Wake Forest Road, they have a fantastic selection of the latest Hyundai models just waiting for you. Their dedicated team is available to provide you with top notch service and unbeatable deals. And don't forget, ask for Tony McLaughlin. He's ready to help you find the perfect car for your needs. Visit Southern State Hyundai of Raleigh today, where quality meets affordability. That's Southern State Hyundai of Raleigh, located at 2511 Wake Forest Road. And tell them the infamous one sent you. They continue to interview him for the next couple of days, and he talks about this 18-year-old girl that he met at a gas station on Noble Road, which I'm assuming is Sherelda because he said the girl told him that her name was Shay. So he talks about how she came back to his apartment and how it was raining that day and how she was playing on his computer and just watching TV and how he left to go get a blunt and get something to drink. And when he came back, she was kind of like irritating him. And he said after that, he kind of got fuzzy and things blurred out. And the next day, she was just laying in his bed, not breathing. Now, he said his head was spinning and he just left her there in the closet for a couple of days. And that's how he ended up moving her to the garage. But then he mentions Shatisha, only he doesn't say her name. He says that he met this black lady at the Honeydew Bar back in October 2012 and that she came back to his crib with him where she had given him some head for $10. Damn, not a $10 head job. Nigga, I ain't even looking at his glowworm dick ass for $10. He looked like you gotta stick the whole body in the fuck. I'm sorry. But anyway, when he said when he woke up, he caught her going through his stuff and they got into it. He like yoked her up from behind and started choking her out, drops her on the bed. And when he finally stopped, he just left her there and just dipped. He wasn't too concerned, but he said, I ain't mean to kill her. I don't know if she was breathing or not, but I didn't mean to kill her. So I just put her in some garbage bags because the only way you can, put a person in garbage bags is to bend them over and slide them in. So he was like, well, I'll just take her to the garage, and she was there for a while, and then I just moved her behind it and I just started drinking because I didn't want to think about it. I didn't want to be sober. And then when I did sober up, the shit she was still there, so I just started drinking some more and doing more drugs. Now the cops knew better. They was like, there's no way that he could be drunk or a druggie like that because he's been locked up for 4 days and he's not showing any signs of going through withdrawal. And they called him on his shit. They was like, "So if you're so heavy into drugs and alcohol, how come you not going through any type of withdrawal?" But he had an answer. He was like, "Well, I don't know. I guess I'm just still in shock." And he's adamant about his not knowing who Angela is. Like he was like, "I don't really recollect the third one. I know about the other two. She could have been to my apartment, and I think maybe I paid her $50 for some ass, but that's about it. And then she left. I know, it was like maybe March or April, somewhere up in there. She had a fat ass. I remember watching it when she was going downstairs." And the cops are just disgusted. They're looking at him like, "You really are a piece of shit." But he tells them outside of the one, "I'm still trying to get it around my mind that, what I'm saying, I can't say I wanted to be caught, but it's like I'm tired, a nigga tired. Like, I don't know, I don't know what I'm saying. I'm not fighting it." The nigga was literally talking in circles. Like, those are dead ass the words that he was saying. Now, I don't know if he was under the influence at the time or what. But then Michael mentioned Anthony Sowell, the man that killed the 11 women on Imperial Avenue. And the way that he was talking about him, it was like almost like this weird infatuation, like he had a crush on him or something. Like he really admired this man. And so the cops were like, "Okay, well, listen, you're going to go to jail, so you need to tell us what you did." And Michael ends up writing this 4-page letter like he's fucking Aaliyah, confessing to the things that he did. And in his letter, he talks about how he first killed Shatisha and how he had her body in his house for months before he put her in that field. And remember, both Brittany and Shantae said that there was that foul smell coming from the house, and how he said it was like dead raccoons and all this other stuff. Not to mention that they noticed that he had bruising and cuts and all of that, the defensive wounds on his body, probably from the girls fighting back. And needless to say, they locked his ass up. And y'all, ironically, he gets put in jail in the Cuyahoga County Jail right there with Ariel Castro. Now, if y'all remember Ariel Castro, he was that guy that had those three girls that he had kept for like a decade, and he had like 1,000 charges of rape and kidnapping and assault and murder and all of that. Y'all remember that dude that was like, "Yeah, I was coming from McDonald's." Oh God, what was his name? Charles Ramsey. Yeah, the one that rescued one of the girls. So he was in jail with that guy. But on July 22nd, 2013, he gets charged with 3 counts of aggravated murder, and they set his bail at $6 million, which he wasn't going to make. And he decided to waive his right to a preliminary hearing, which is, basically where a judge determines if there's enough evidence to proceed to trial. So he knew that there was evidence on him. He just decided, hey, I'm not even going to, fake it. Fuck it. I just want to go to trial. So Michael gets him an attorney by the name of David Grant, and he decides to enter a not guilty plea. And he's got to go up against the prosecutor, Timothy McGinty, for Cuyahoga County. Now, Timothy was ready to lock that ass up forever. Actually, Timothy was ready for the death penalty, but it is what it is. So Michael was facing 14 charges: 2 counts of aggravated murder for each victim, 3 counts of kidnapping, 3 counts of gross abuse of a corpse, 1 count of rape, and 1 count of weapons possession by an ex convict. Remember, he definitely was a sexual predator and a felon, and he was not supposed to have a weapon, but he did. So he pleads not guilty to the updated indictment that included sexually motivated aggravated murder charges. And McGinty made it clear, we gonna seek the death penalty on that ass. He needs to be done. He needs to be gone. He needs to be dust. And I 100% agree with that, but we'll get into that during fair or foul. So Michael's attorney David was trying to, prevent him from the death penalty, but I mean, he kind of knew it was coming. I mean, look at the things that, had been done. So Michael has to sit a while in jail because he got charged July 22nd, 2013. But it's not to say that he wasn't, trying to get his ducks in a row. On March 18th, 2014, he filed a motion to suppress the warrantless search of the garage that occurred, which is how they found, the evidence in the first place. But on April 16th, 2014, the state opposed that motion and was like, nah, nigga, we're going to go ahead and include that in the trial. He also tried to stop an evidentiary hearing on April 28th of 2014, but on May 7th, the trial court denied that as well. And of course, because of the crimes that were committed, the state filed a motion to have Michael submit to a psychiatric exam, which was conducted by Dr. Stephen Pitt. Basically, making sure that he was competent enough to stand trial. Oddly enough, Michael's attorney opposed the request, saying that it was an infringement of Michael's right to remain silent in his privilege against self incrimination under the Fifth Amendment. Boy, fuck you. And clearly the judge was like, yeah, I ain't trying to hear none of that bullshit. He gonna go get this exam done. And that's exactly what he made him do. So all these motions and whatnot was just a waste of time and caused the trial to be delayed. Now, his trial didn't start until April 4th, 2016, with Judge Nancy McDonald presiding. During his trial, they called on witnesses, the victims' families came forward, they spoke. One witness, Kiana Baker, was a friend of Michael's from the neighborhood since 2011. They were good friends, and she talked about how he was a good dad to his two kids. And then she talked about how he was, having a frustration when it came to women. And at one point, Kiana's understanding, she said, he said he was aggravated with the way women was treating him, and they make him want to Anthony Sowell a B word. And so the prosecution was like, Miss Baker, what's the B word? You can say it. It's fine. We're grown ups here. I want to know what he said. We all want to know what the word is. And so she hesitates and she was like, he said, I mean, I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it. But the judge tells her it's necessary that you say it. Like, you can say it. So she says, bitch is what he said. I apologize. And so the prosecution, they kind of push it a little bit. They're like, put what Mr. Madison said into the full sentence. And she says, he said, these hoes be acting crazy, acting like they don't want to fuck with a real nigga. And they make you want to, what's the Anthony Sowella bitch? If that don't tell y'all how much he idolized that sicko. And so another friend gets on the stand to testify by the name of Eugenia Thomas. And she lived nearby on Hayden. And she talked about how, she had known Michael since 2010. She talked about how in 2013 they were out talking one day and he told her he was sexually frustrated. She testified on how he got upset with women and he talked about hitting women and tying them up and how he liked submissive women. He told her that he liked to tie women up during sex. And sometimes when they would talk on the phone, he would tell her that he was, outside the mall watching bitches. And that was just kind of like a frequent thing for him. But what really got the prosecution's attention was when Eugenia told them that on multiple occasions since 2012, he talks about how he wanted to kill his baby mama because she wouldn't let him see his kids. And so when she saw the news that said that there was a body in his garage, she actually called the FBI because she was afraid that he actually killed his baby mama. Now, the trial lasted about a month, but after all the witness testimonies and everything, on May 5th, 2016, the jury is dismissed to deliberate. It took them less than a day. And they came back and they found him guilty on all 13 counts that he was charged with, in addition to them charging him with one count of notice change of address, which is because he failed to update his address with his PO when he was initially released from prison. So the jury recommends the death penalty, and on June 2nd, 2016, the judge gives the victim's family an opportunity to speak. Now, everything was going good until Van Terry, which was Sherelda's father, gets up to talk. While he's talking, he's talking about his daughter, the young baby. She was the youngest, she was 18. He's talking about how she was raped and murdered by this man. And what does Michael do? He's sitting there with a smirk on his face, like looking dead at her daddy, like he wants to laugh. And that just pissed Van all the way off. So Van just jumps at Michael and he is trying to whoop his ass while Michael is laughing, thinking the shit is funny. The bailiffs and the officers, they grab Mr. Terry and, they take him out of the courtroom to try to calm him down. And they clear out the courtroom for a second, and after a little bit, they come back. Everybody's calm. Luckily, Van didn't get charged with anything because, I mean, realistically, how can you charge him for something like that? Like, this man was taunting him about his daughter's death. Now, Michael Madison, he gets sentenced to death and he's carted off and taken back to the Cuyahoga County Jail, where he's later transported to Ross Correctional Institution in Chillicothe, Ohio. And of course, he appeals the decision as far as his sentencing, and he mainly based it off of the jury. See, he argued that the trial court improperly restricted his attorney's ability to conduct voir dire. Basically, he was saying that his attorneys didn't get a chance to question the jurors to see if they could be fair or impartial. And he mainly argued that his attorney should have been allowed to, incorporate the questions of the inflammatory facts of the case. He also claimed that the trial court erroneously overruled his challenges for cause to none of the jurors and, the prospective jurors. But even though he filed the appeal, the Ohio Supreme Court voted unanimously to uphold the death sentence for Michael on July 20th or July 21st of 2020. Now, he had filed his appeal, but right before the appeal was heard, something else happened. Remember I told y'all karma's a bitch. Okay, so recall that Michael's mother, Diane Madison, abused him a lot and that there was a lot going on as far as to their relationship. All right, so let's talk about Diane Madison for a minute. Diane Madison was born to Leonard Madison Sr. and Shirley Sims in 1957. Now, Shirley was 16 years old when she gave birth to Diane. See, Leonard knew Shirley because she was best friends with this girl named Joyce. And Joyce was Leonard's daughter. Yeah, let that sink in. This nasty son of a bitch. This girl is old enough to be his daughter's friend. Like, literally his daughter's best friend. Like, yuck. But apparently that didn't mean nothing to him. So Leonard and Shirley, they hook up, and Shirley gives birth to Diane. And Leonard was abusive as fuck. Like, he used to beat the fuck out of Shirley to the point that she got so tired of it. She ran off and left her daughter in his care. Like, she moved all the way from Philly to California and became a prostitute and a drug addict. And it was years before Diane ever saw her again. So, after she left, Diane is raised by Leonard for like 4 years until he gets sent to prison. And Diane was like 4 years old at the time. And Leonard didn't have many options on a caregiver. So he asked his friend Lois, who was a madam, to take care of her until he could get out. And she said, okay. Y'all, there's so many issues with this story. But yeah, he goes to prison for a year and then he gets out and he gets his daughter back from the madam. And as she's getting older, he's still abusive to her, like not just physically, but sexually as well. Like from the time that she was 6 years old until like maybe 12, he was just molesting her like every other week. Like he would take her riding out in his car and then he would stop somewhere and just take advantage of her. And at one point, Shirley actually did come back. Like she came around thinking, hey, you know what? It's time for me to be a mom again. But Leonard told her, yeah, take your ass on somewhere. You come anywhere near my child and I'm going to fucking kill you. Plus, on top of that, he met someone else that he wanted to, play mama to Diane. Like he married this woman named Marion, who was a little itty bitty thing that was like 4'11" and skinny, and she was 25 years younger than him. Like, what the fuck? See, he got a thing for them young bitches. Like, I don't know why bitches like to fuck with old niggas all the time. I don't need me no sugar daddy. Like, that's nasty. I ain't trying to get no Nate. I ain't trying to get worms. That's just nasty. But they get married and they have 3 kids together: Leonard Jr., Lisa, and Tina. But y'all, this motherfucker Leonard was sick. Like at 16 years old, Diane is clearly still living at home because she's 16. Do you know that her father tried to get her to do a threesome with him and his wife? Like, what? And Diane, she's just like, nope, can't do it. She takes off running and screaming because she's like, what the fuck is wrong with him? But, the abuse continued. Like one time he hit Diane so hard, it left a moon shaped scar on the top of her head because he had taken a ceramic ashtray and hit her with it when she changed the TV channel from a football game that he was watching. Like he would cut her, beat her, everything you could think of. Like this was a true definition of a generational curse because on top of that, Leonard had been mistreated and sexually exploited himself. When he was 8 years old, his mother was a prostitute and a madam, and she would have him fucking her customers. He endured that until he left school and was adopted by another relative, and then eventually, he joined the army. So, for lack of better words, this entire family was fucked up. Like the history of family violence and physical abuse literally crossed generations. Leonard was abusive to Shirley and Diane. Shirley was abusive to Diane. Diane's boyfriend, William, was abusive to her as well as to Michael and JR. Diane was abusive to Michael and JR. Cowboy Dave was abusive to Michael. The other boyfriend, Robert, with just one name, he was abusive to Michael and JR. Billy Brown was abusive to Michael. Timothy was abusive to Michael. And then Michael became abusive to his own brother. Like it literally was a ripple effect. And the family was full of fucking sex offenders, one of whom was Michael, surprise. Like Michael talked about how when he was a kid, his mom would like cut up his clothes and his shoes, and he would wake up, not knowing if he even had anything to wear for the day. Now, later on, I guess you could say that Diane got her life together. That's typically how it happens. Once you get older, then all of a sudden you repent and find God and whatnot. Meanwhile, you done fucked up your kids. So, as she got older, she became a legal assistant for the Western Reserve Land Conservatory. And her coworkers, oh, they just loved her to pieces. Them white people ate her up. They didn't know what she was really like. They thought she was compassionate and caring and such the great grandmother. But her grandchildren appeared to think otherwise. One in particular, Jalen Plummer. Jalen Latrell Plummer was born November 17th, 2000 in Cleveland, Ohio, to Tania Plummer. The very same Tania Plummer that is Michael Madison's baby mama. Yes, she had a child before she had his two kids. Now, despite what the media says, Jalen is not in any bloodline related to Diane Madison. Because there are tons of articles that I saw that said, oh, the grandson killed the grandmother of the serial killer. They're not related. Okay. His siblings were related to her, but not him. I think it was just one of those things where, she called him his grandma because, his younger two siblings were actually her bloodline. And I mean, my grandmother, she called people her grandkids even though they weren't related to her. I think that's just how, people are. And there's nothing wrong with that. But by all accounts, Jalen was a good kid. Like, there's not much on his childhood because he was so young, but he attended Collingwood High School in Cleveland, Ohio, and he was set to go to Notre Dame for college. Like, that's a big flex. But sadly, that day never came. To date, there's still no real reason as to why he did what he did. But on June 22nd, 2019, Jalen goes over to the house of Diane Madison. Now, she's got her three grandchildren inside. She's got Michael's son and daughter, and then she's got JR's daughter. And they're all in their beds asleep, which leads me to believe that she's got custody of these kids, which is already disturbing given her background. But they're all there in their beds asleep, and Jalen comes in. His 10-year-old sister and his 12-year-old brother, they're there as well as his 10-year-old cousin. And he gets a knife and he proceeds to start stabbing the kids. He stabs each of them and then he goes into the room where Diane was and he stabbed her repeatedly, just over and over. And she dies right there in her bed. Now, the two 10-year-olds, they jump up and they run to a neighbor's house for help while he's busy with Diane. So the neighbors call 911 saying, that they've been stabbed and the police are on the way. So while the police are en route, Jalen decides that he wants to take a shower. So he goes into the bathroom and he literally starts to take a shower to wash off the blood. And the cops get there and they're going through the house and they find the 12-year-old still, bleeding in their bed, but they can hear this water running. So they go into the bathroom and they pull the shower curtains back. And there's Jalen taking a shower, washing blood off of him like it's just regular dirt. They arrest him and they take him to the Cuyahoga County Jail where he's charged with murder and 3 counts of attempted murder. And everybody is just left wondering why. Like, why would you kill the woman? Like, literally, why? Jalen Latrell Plummer was born November 17th, 2000 in Cleveland, Ohio, to Tania Plummer. The very same Tania Plummer that is Michael Madison's baby mama. Yes, she had a child before she had his two kids. Now, despite what the media says, Jalen is not in any bloodline related to Diane Madison. Because there are tons of articles that I saw that said, oh, the grandson killed the grandmother of the serial killer. They're not related. Okay. His siblings were related to her, but not him. I think it was just one of those things where, she called him his grandma because, his younger 2 siblings were actually her bloodline. And I mean, my grandmother, she called people her grandkids even though they weren't related to her. I think that's just how, people are. And there's nothing wrong with that. But by all accounts, Jalen was a good kid. Like, there's not much on his childhood because he was so young, but he attended Collingwood High School in Cleveland, Ohio, and he was set to go to Notre Dame for college. Like, that's a big flex. But sadly, that day never came. To date, there's still no real reason as to why he did what he did. But on June 22nd, 2019, Jalen goes over to the house of Diane Madison. Now, she's got her 3 grandchildren inside. She's got Michael's son and daughter, and then she's got JR's daughter. And they're all in their beds asleep, which leads me to believe that she's got custody of these kids, which is already disturbing given her background. But they're all there in their beds asleep, and Jalen comes in. His 10-year-old sister and his 12-year-old brother, they're there as well as his 10-year-old cousin. And he gets a knife and he proceeds to start stabbing the kids. He stabs each of them and then he goes into the room where Diane was and he stabbed her repeatedly, just over and over. And she dies right there in her bed. Now, the 2 10-year-olds, they jump up and they run to a neighbor's house for help while he's busy with Diane. So the neighbors call 911 saying, that they've been stabbed and the police are on the way. So while the police are en route, Jalen decides that he wants to take a shower. So he goes into the bathroom and he literally starts to take a shower to wash off the blood. And the cops get there and they're going through the house and they find the 12-year-old still, bleeding in their bed, but they can hear this water running. So they go into the bathroom and they pull the shower curtains back, and there's Jalen taking a shower, washing blood off of him like it's just regular dirt. They arrest him and they take him to the Cuyahoga County Jail where he's charged with murder and 3 counts of attempted murder. And everybody is just left wondering why. Like, why would you kill the woman? Like, literally, why?
What was the reason?
This one I really don't have an answer for it because I'm just like, dude, what the fuck would cause you to do that? Like, was she mean to you? Did she hit you? Did she hit your brother? Did she hit your sister? Like, what the fuck made you just go in there and do that? And then you just got in the shower like it was nothing. Jalen's whole defense was that he was high off his ass. He had apparently smoked some weed, but he believes that the weed was laced with PCP, and that's what caused him to do what he did, like he was in some hallucinogenic state. So he ends up getting charged, and rather than have to deal with an entire trial, he pleads guilty to all of the charges in front of Judge Peter Corrigan. And on June 29th, 2021, after serving 737 days in jail, he's sentenced to life in prison for the charge of aggravated murder and the attempted murder of the children. Like, you got to be a sick somebody to try to kill your own siblings. But, the judge does give him a little bit of leniency. He's eligible for parole after 30 years. Since he pled guilty, it makes him basically avoid his own death sentence. So now Jalen is inmate number A781912 at the Warren Correctional Institution in Lebanon, Ohio, where he will remain for life, but he will be eligible for parole in April of 2049. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the story of Michael Madison and Jalen Plummer and their fucked up family tree. And now it is time for Fair or Foul, where we look at the justice system to determine if the sentence that was given was indeed fair or if it was just some bullshit that's going to have us sitting back saying, what the fuck? In terms of Michael getting the death sentence, I 100% agree with that. While I do understand that, he came from a very tumultuous childhood and had a lot of abuse and everything that he endured, it does not warrant nor excuse the fact that you maliciously raped and killed women. You had a fucked up relationship with your mother, yes, but you continued the relationship with her. You could have easily walked away. No one forced you to have a relationship with your mother. But instead, you decided to take your hate for her and take it out on other women, including your child's mother and other innocent women that didn't do shit to you. You stuffed them in plastic garbage bags and hid them in your garage to the point that they began to rot. And now you're sitting in prison for the remainder of your fucking life. And I really wish that they had gone ahead with that death sentence because originally Michael was scheduled to be executed back on May 14th, 2024. But the Ohio Supreme Court Chief Justice Sharon Kennedy gave him a stay of execution until all of his appeals were exhausted. So I need for them to hurry that up and get that done so that way they can go ahead and give his ass that good old $42 cocktail and get rid of his wasteless, useless ass. Yes, you had a fucked up childhood, but a lot of people in America have fucked up childhoods. Does that mean that they have to be serial killers? No. And then you idolizing and acting like Anthony Sowell is the end all be all. Bitch, please. At the trial, you was smirking and taunting one of your victim's family members. Who the fuck does that? But you want people to feel like you're not guilty. You want people to think that you're innocent. Absolutely not. At the end of the day, your lemur looking ass killed these women for no good reason. You sadistic fuck. And now your ass needs to rot in prison. And I hope that the same way that you rape these women, that you get that exact same treatment in return inside them fucking prison walls. And as far as what happened to your mama, karma, bitch. I can't say that I show sympathy for her because if she really is guilty of doing all of these things, again, karma. Not saying that I want somebody to just die. I'm not saying that, she deserved to die. I'm not applauding it. But at the end of the day, what goes around comes around. You know what I'm saying? What Jalen did to Diane was really fucked up. There's no real motive or real reason as to why he did what he did. Like I said, we don't know the reason. But at least he owned up to what he did. He pleaded guilty. He didn't sit there and say some bullshit of, I ain't do it like you did. Michael, you knew exactly what you did. For God's sake, you talked to other people about how you couldn't stand women and how you couldn't stand your baby mama and how you wanted to kill her and all of that. And then as far as Jalen is concerned, he's screwed for life too. His future is gone. He deserves the same time. He deserves the time that he got as well. And yes, it was completely fair. He got life. Simple point blank. I think you should be eligible for, parole after 30 years only because you had no history of violence. And I feel like deep down, hey, maybe he was high, or maybe there was something else that was going on that wasn't exposed. But everybody in this family is fucked up. Like, I just feel like when it comes to this bloodline, they just need to go ahead and say fuck it and wipe that shit clean. Like fucking Final Destination Bloodlines. Wipe that shit fucking clean. I pray that these babies that was living with Diane don't get fucked up too. They're now 15, 16 years old. Like I'm praying that they don't end up in the same fucking situation in the same fucking cycle. Hopefully at some point that cycle can be broken. We as people have the power and ability to do that, but you have to want to do that. I came from a family where, it was a bunch of single mamas and baby mamas and uncles and all kind of shit. I came from a family where, there was a lot of fucked up shit, parents that didn't necessarily know how to parent, and guess what, broke the fucking cycle. And I'm proud of that because that's something that I willingly chose to do. I said I'm not going to let the cycle continue, and I fucking broke it. We as black people have the capability to do that, but you have to want to. And I'm praying that these babies can. Like this is, God forbid, help us if, 10 years from now, we're looking at another story where another descendant from this family has done the exact same thing. Like, this is one of the situations where it's really a generational curse. But at the same time, you chose to do this. You chose to commit murder. And Michael, you chose to do that to those women. Then you out here drugging yourself and drinking and trying to use that as an excuse for what you're doing. Don't you know do you know how many alcoholics I've met in my life that haven't committed murder, or how many dope addicts that I've met in my life that haven't committed murder? Not to say I'm hanging around a bunch of alcoholics and dope addicts. That's not what I mean. But just people that have, been down on their luck. They don't turn to murder. They don't say, oh, I'm going to just go out here and rape a bunch of bitches and go out here and kill a bunch of bitches. No. Like, get the fuck out of here with that. That's not a good reason to me. You chose to do these things because you claimed that you hated women, but yet you couldn't stop fucking them, yet you couldn't stop raping them, yet you couldn't stay away from them, yet you had 2 children with one of them. You had 2 bitches that you was alternating in your house. You want to sit up here and talk about how you couldn't be around your kids for fear that you would do something to them, but in all actuality, you wanted to hurt their baby mama. You wanted to hurt their mother. Like there's a special spot in hell for people like you. I only hope that Jalen actually learns his lesson. And now, because of the fact that we don't know what made him do what he did to stab Diane, hopefully, he really does get his shit together. I personally believe that maybe Diane was doing something as far as abuse to the kids because, it's not like you just change overnight. All of her coworkers that was saying that she was so compassionate and she was so sweet clearly didn't know who this bitch really was because there was documented, proven evidence of her abuse. And I'm pretty sure that it continued. But at the same time, I feel like whatever the reason was for him to do what he did is still not a valid enough reason to just stab somebody and take a life. That is not what I mean at all. Nothing is worth taking somebody's life unless you are defending yourself. Now, if somebody is putting hands on you, or if they're hurting you to the point that you feel like you have to take that step, I would understand that. But to just go in there and just stab somebody that's in their sleep and then you stab your sisters and brother, like, come on, man. That I can't excuse. He could have, he was on his way to college. He could have got away and just chosen to stay away. He could have been yet another one that broke the cycle, but he didn't. So I can only hope that these babies that are left behind get that counseling that they need and that they don't end up repeating history. That is all for this week's episode of the Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast. You can follow the show on the various streams on Instagram and TikTok at Infamous One Podcast. And it's a number one, by the way, not spelled out. And you can leave a review there. On X, it's Infamous One Pod, where you can also leave a review. On Facebook, you can join the private discussion group, the Infamous Ones discussion group. But of course, y'all know the deal. If you don't answer the questions, I'm not letting you in. Okay, it's that simple. Once you get in, welcome to the mob, y'all. Let's have some fun. Y'all, tickets to the Charlotte show go on sale in 2 days. That's right. Tuesday, July 15th, the tickets will go live on sale. Tickets are going to be $50. That's it. No more, no less. Okay. $50. Just like last time, there's going to be a photographer, there's going to be a fun activity. Going to have spirits there to drink on, and of course, a brand new true crime story. So make sure y'all check the website for more. Okay. Charlotte is going to be a big turnout. Oh, yeah. Y'all know there is a website, right? Did I forget to mention that? Yes, honey. www.theinfamousones.com is where you can check for all the news, merch, events, and more. So make sure to check out the website, theinfamousones.com. T-shirts are on sale on the site. They're starting at $25 each. Tumblers are also on sale for $30. I did just get a new order in because the last one got sold out very quickly. Y'all, everything is so much love. Like, it is amazing on that site. Y'all know I got some of the best merch. So make sure you grab one while it's available, okay? The show streams on multiple streaming services like Odyssey, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and so on. So leave a review. Like, it only takes a few seconds. The reviews matter. Okay, let me go ahead and get to these reviews because I'm a little tipsy right now. Like, I done damn to drink this whole bottle. All right. The first review comes from Spotify from Janetta Martin. And it's on the Frenemies episode, which was the one that we did last week about Dana being killed by her so-called friend. But the review says, I just discovered your podcast today and hit the follow button with the quickness. I can't even put into words how entertained you are, keeping me and you're making me laugh at the same time. So I appreciate the stories mixed with humor. Thank you for taking my mind off things. I'm so glad I hit the follow button. Much love, hugs, and blessings to you. Oh, welcome, boo. I hope you are enjoying the show so far. Listen, you got to tell me what you're sipping on, okay? I hope you drank. Wait, do you drink? But thank you for your review. I greatly appreciate it. And congrats on becoming a mobber. Yes. The next review comes from Spotify as well from Mr. C, and it's on the That's My Baby episode. And it says, Goodness, Kay, I think it's time I give a review. I might have heard that you want a few. I'm going to say the way you tell a story is amazing. Detailed with fact and spice. My drive to the plantation is about an hour, and guess what I'm doing? Clutching pearls and laughing along with you at the same time. And then to hear you go off. Sis, you got a fan, and I've put my wife down with the pod too. Not the plantation. Not the plantation, baby. But listen, I get it. And yes, I'm going to keep bringing y'all the crazy stories, and I'm going to keep popping off. Y'all know how my mouth is. Shoot. Listen, Renee done gave me about 18 weeks worth of episodes. So I thank you. Welcome to the mob. And thank you for putting your wife on too. I appreciate that. Listen, if you near Charlotte, if you or Janetta, either one of y'all are near Charlotte, make sure you get your ticket. Okay. If you want to support the show, or if you're feeling the spirit, meaning that liquor that we've been sipping on, or in my case, this champagne, click the link at the bottom of the screen from whatever app you're listening to this episode on and hit listener support to subscribe. You can also donate via the Cash App at $infamous1pod. That's $INFAMOUSONEPOD. And donations go toward like documentation, court documents, inmate sessions, etc. And as always, shout out to the popcorn donators. Much love to y'all. If you have a case that you want to hear more on that you feel has been ignored in the Black community, if you want to inquire about ad space, or if you want to leave a review, send an email to infamous1pod@gmail.com. Again, that's INFAMOUSONEPOD@gmail.com. And once again, people, please share, share, share. This podcast is growing by the day and it means the world, so please keep sharing. Until then, y'all know what it is. I'm your girl Kay. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see y'all next week with a new episode. Stay mobbing, y'all. Peace.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast hosted by Kay. Be sure to like and comment on your favorite podcast platform and subscribe so that you never miss an episode.